Join us as we unpack the timeless principles of self-empowerment and spiritual growth found in Neville Goddard's book, Your Faith is Your Fortune.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Ready for another deep dive with us?
Always.
Today we're diving into one of the most popular works by Neville Goddard.
Your faith is your fortune.
Yes. This book is all about, really embracing this idea that your consciousness is the ultimate creator of your reality.
Absolutely. It's a powerful premise. And this deep dive is designed to give you a really comprehensive understanding of Neville's core teachings.
Yeah, and we're going chapter by chapter. We'll be unearthing these key insights, exploring how you can actually apply them.
And get ready for some serious mind-bending concepts. We're going right to the source. The text itself, unpacking the meaning and sharing those impactful quotes along the way.
We'll even see how those seemingly impossible events like Daniel in the lion's den can be understood through this lens. Are you ready to unlock the power of your consciousness?
Let's do it.
Okay, so chapter 1, Before Abraham Was All.
This chapter really sets the stage for the whole book by introducing this foundational concept of I am. But it's not about your name or your personality.
Yeah, what exactly is this I am?
Neville describes it as the unconditioned awareness before all thoughts, feelings, experiences. It's the pure awareness of being.
So like the awareness that's always there even before we start thinking about who we are or what we want.
Exactly, the awareness that simply is. And Neville emphasizes that recognizing this I am is crucial because it's a source of all creative power.
Okay, so how does understanding this I am help us in a practical way?
Think about it. If you tap into that awareness, you break free from those limitations your mind creates.
Like stepping outside the confines of ego.
Yes. Like you're connecting to a power far greater than your individual self.
Powerful shift in perspective.
And there's this incredible quote in this chapter. It says, "From this withinness I ever seek to transcend all conceptions of myself. I am the law of being, and beside me there is no law. I am that I am."
Wow, that's heavy. It's like a mantra.
It is. It's a declaration of your inherent power. It's saying, I am not limited by circumstances. I am the creator.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this foundation of I am could really change how we approach life. Let's move on to chapter 2. You shall decree.
This is where we dive into decreeing, which is essentially claiming something is true with unwavering faith.
So if I just decree I'm going to win a Grammy, it'll happen.
Not quite. It's not about wishing on a star. It's about embodying the feeling of already having achieved that goal.
Can you unpack that a bit?
So instead of, I hope to win a Grammy someday, you would feel the excitement and gratitude as if you were already holding that award. Visualize accepting the Grammy, the weight of it in your hand, the roar of the crowd.
That's what decreeing is, aligning your inner world with your desired outer reality.
Yes. Neville says feeling is the secret of creation.
That makes me rethink how I approach my goals.
And remember, Neville wasn't just theorizing. He drew inspiration from powerful stories in the Bible, interpreting them through this lens of consciousness.
You mean like miracles?
Yes. The story of the woman with the issue of blood. Despite her condition, she had absolute faith that if she could just touch Jesus' garment, she would be healed. And she was.
So she wasn't just hoping to be healed, she felt the reality of it.
Exactly. She felt the relief, the wholeness, the freedom, and that feeling paved the way for her healing.
I can see how that applies to so many areas, not just physical health.
Absolutely. It's about identifying the feeling associated with your desire and cultivating that feeling within, knowing that your inner state will shape your outer reality.
Decreeing powerful tool. I'm already seeing its potential. This idea of I am leads to a pretty radical concept that Neville explores in the next few chapters. He says our consciousness is actually God.
That's right. Chapters 3 through 6, the principle of truth, whom seek you, who am I, and I am he, delves into the nature of God and our relationship to the divine.
Okay, let's unpack that.
These chapters can be a little challenging, but they're absolutely central to understanding Neville's teachings. He's not talking about God in the traditional sense as an external being separate from ourselves.
So what's he saying?
He's saying God is the creative power within each of us. The I am that we talked about, that's God. That's the source of all creation.
Whoa, that's a big idea.
It is, and it might seem controversial, but it boils down to the idea that we have far more power than we realize. We're not just puppets of fate, we're active participants in the creation of our reality.
So instead of praying to an external God, we should be recognizing the God within.
Exactly. Neville was really adamant about debunking the idea of ascended masters or external saviors. He said, the only savior is the I am within.
It's like we're each carrying a universe within ourselves.
That's a great way to put it. And he emphasizes that the kingdom of heaven is also within. It's not a physical place we go to after we die. It's a state of consciousness.
So if that's the case, how do we access this inner kingdom, this power within?
It starts with recognizing your true nature, your I am-ness. It's about shifting your focus from external circumstances to the internal landscape of your consciousness.
So it's about turning inward, exploring our own depths, and recognizing the power that resides there.
Precisely. And that leads us perfectly into the next 2 chapters. Thy will be done, and no other God.
Okay, surrender and letting go. Those are concepts that can be a little tricky, especially when we're so used to trying to control everything.
I know what you mean. But Neville's perspective on surrender is really empowering. He's not talking about giving up or becoming passive. It's about aligning your will with the higher will of your I am.
So it's not about saying whatever happens, happens, but about trusting that there's a greater power at work.
Yes, and that this power has your best interests at heart. It's about releasing the need to micromanage every outcome and trusting in the creative power within.
So it's about letting go of the struggle and surrendering to the flow of creation.
Exactly. It's about having faith that the universe is conspiring to bring your desires into being, and that your job is simply to align with that flow.
I'm starting to see how surrender in this context can be a powerful force. It's about relinquishing control and trusting in something bigger than ourselves. Let's keep going. Chapters 9 and 10 are the foundation stone, and to him that hath. What are the key takeaways from these chapters?
These chapters highlight the importance of our beliefs and the foundation upon which we build our lives. Neville emphasizes that our beliefs shape our experiences. He says, every man's imagination is himself, and it is God.
So it's not enough to just passively acknowledge the I am. We have to actively cultivate beliefs that support our desires.
That's right. Neville talks about the importance of building our foundation on the rock of consciousness, on the awareness of our true nature as creators. He challenges us to examine our beliefs and see if they're actually serving us.
So if we have a belief that's limiting us, how do we change it?
It starts with awareness. Become aware of the beliefs that are holding you back, the thoughts and feelings that keep you stuck in a reality you no longer want. Once you've identified them, you can start to challenge them.
It's about choosing new beliefs that are more empowering and aligned with our desires.
Exactly. And that brings us to the symbolism of Christmas and the crucifixion and resurrection, which Neville explores in chapters 11 and 12.
Okay, those are some pretty loaded topics. What's his take on these pivotal events?
He interprets them from a psychological perspective. For example, he sees the virgin birth not as a literal event, but as a representation of the creative power of consciousness. The virgin in this case is pure, unconditioned awareness, and the birth represents the manifestation of an idea or desire.
So our consciousness is like the fertile ground from which our desires can be born.
Precisely. And he interprets the movable date of Easter as symbolizing that resurrection, or the manifestation of our desires, isn't bound by linear time. It happens according to the time of consciousness.
So our desires can manifest outside of our perceived timeline. That's encouraging. What about the crucifixion? What's the symbolic meaning there?
Neville interprets the crucifixion as the death of the old self, the letting go of the limited beliefs and identities that hold us back.
So it's like a symbolic death and rebirth, but on a psychological level. We let go of the old limiting patterns to make space for a new, more fulfilling reality.
Exactly. It's a process of transformation, of shedding the old to embrace the new.
This is a powerful reminder that we have the ability to constantly evolve and create new versions of ourselves. It's about recognizing that we're not fixed. We're always in a state of becoming. What comes next?
Chapters 13 through 15 explore the power of impressions. These chapters are called I am impressions, circumcision, and interval of time.
So what are impressions and why are they so important?
Neville uses the term impressions to refer to the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that we impress upon our subconscious mind. He emphasizes that our subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. It accepts whatever we impress upon it as true.
So if we're constantly feeding our subconscious mind with negative thoughts and limiting beliefs, those are the seeds that will take root and grow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But conversely, if we focus on positive, empowering thoughts and feelings, we're impressing those upon our subconscious, and those are the seeds that will manifest in our reality.
So it's about becoming aware of the impressions we're allowing into our consciousness and making sure they're aligned with the reality we want to create.
Absolutely. It's about becoming the conscious gardener of our mind, planting the seeds of our desires and nurturing them with faith and feeling.
This makes me think of that saying, be careful what you wish for, you might just get it. We really do have the power to shape our reality with our thoughts.
Neville also talks about the importance of circumcision, which he sees as a symbolic act of removing limiting beliefs and conditioning from our minds. It's about freeing ourselves from the constraints of the past.
So it's like a mental cleansing, a clearing away of the old patterns that no longer serve us.
Exactly. It's about creating space for new possibilities to emerge.
I'm starting to see that this is really a journey of self-discovery. It's about exploring the depths of our consciousness, identifying the limiting beliefs that hold us back, and consciously choosing to replace them with empowering ones. What's next on our journey through this book?
The next 3 chapters delve into the nature of the Triune God, Neville's unique perspective on prayer, and the symbolism of the 12 disciples. These chapters are titled The Triune God, Prayer, and the 12 Disciples.
Okay, break it down for me. What's his take on the Triune God?
He sees the Triune God, the concept of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, not as separate entities, but as aspects of our own consciousness.
So instead of being external beings, they represent different facets of our own being.
Exactly. The Father represents our unconditioned awareness, the I Am. The Son represents our individualized consciousness, the part of us that experiences the world. And the Holy Spirit represents the creative power that flows between the two, bringing our desires into manifestation.
Wow, that's a really interesting way to think about it. It brings the idea of the divine much closer to home, making it more personal and accessible. What about prayer? How does he approach that?
Instead of seeing prayer as begging or pleading with an external God, Neville views it as a conscious assumption of the desired state.
So instead of saying, please give me this, I should be embodying the feeling of already having it.
Precisely. It's about shifting your inner state to align with your desired reality.
That makes so much sense. It's about shifting our focus from lack to abundance, from what we don't have to what we already possess in consciousness. Okay, what about the 12 disciples? How does he interpret those?
Neville sees the disciples as representing 12 disciplined qualities of mind. He says, the 12 disciples are not men, but faculties of the human soul.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure. Simon Peter represents faith. Andrew represents courage. James and John represent justice and love. Philip represents persistence. Bartholomew represents imagination, and so on.
So it's like an inner team of qualities that we can cultivate and develop to master our reality.
That's a great way to think about it. The book encourages us to explore which of these qualities resonate most with us, and which ones we could develop further to gain more control over our lives.
This is starting to feel like we're assembling a team of superpowers within ourselves.
You could say that. Now are you ready to dive into some more vivid analogies?
Bring them on. I love how Neville uses stories and metaphors to make these complex concepts more relatable. What's next?
Chapters 19 through 22 cover liquid light, the breath of life, Daniel in the lion's den, and fishing. Prepare for some mind-bending imagery.
I'm intrigued. Let's start with liquid light. What's that all about?
Neville describes liquid light as the primordial substance from which all things are formed. It's the raw material of creation, the building blocks of reality.
So it's like the cosmic soup that everything is made of.
You could say that, and what's fascinating is that Neville connects this liquid light to our consciousness. He says, I am the light of the world.
Okay, I remember him saying that earlier, but how does that tie into liquid light?
He's saying that our awareness, our I am, is like a lens that focuses and shapes this liquid light, bringing it into form. It's through our consciousness that this formless substance takes shape and becomes the world we experience.
So our thoughts and beliefs are essentially molding this liquid light into our reality. That's a powerful visual.
It is, and it highlights the creative power we possess. We're not just passive observers, we're active participants in the creation of our reality.
That's both exciting and a little daunting. It means we're responsible for what we create.
Yes, but it also means we have the power to change our reality. If we don't like what we're experiencing, we can change our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, and that will ultimately shift our reality.
I'm starting to see how it all ties together. Now, what about the breath of life? How does that fit into this picture?
Neville uses the analogy of breath to describe the power of our conscious awareness to bring our desires into being. He says the breath of life is the power of God in you.
So just like breath gives life to our physical bodies, our awareness gives life to our desires.
That's the idea. Our focused attention, our belief, and our feeling are like the breath that animates our desires, giving them form and substance in our reality.
Okay, I can see that. Now let's talk about one of my favorite stories, Daniel in the lion's den. How does Neville interpret this classic tale?
He uses it to illustrate the power of focusing on the desired outcome, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges.
Remind me of the story.
Daniel was thrown into a den of lions because of his faith. But instead of giving in to fear and despair, he turned his back on the lions and prayed to God.
And miraculously, he was saved. The lions didn't touch him.
Exactly. And Neville points out that Daniel's unwavering faith and his unwavering focus on his desired outcome, which was deliverance, created the conditions for that outcome to manifest. He wasn't focused on the problem, he was focused on the solution.
So it's not about ignoring the problem, but about shifting our focus to the solution to the reality we want to create. It's about choosing faith over fear.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that where our attention goes, energy flows, and ultimately that's what manifests in our reality.
Okay, that's a powerful lesson, and one that I think we can all apply to our lives. What about the last chapter in this section, fishing?
This one's all about the importance of aligning ourselves with the right state of consciousness. Neville uses the analogy of fishing to describe the process of searching for our desires in the deep waters of consciousness.
So if we want to catch big dreams, we need to go deep within ourselves.
Exactly. He tells the story of the disciples fishing all night and catching nothing. Then Jesus comes along and tells them to cast their nets on the right side of the boat.
And of course, they catch a ton of fish.
They do. And Neville uses this story to illustrate the importance of aligning ourselves with the right state of consciousness, with the feeling of already having what we desire. That's the right side of the boat.
So it's not about efforting or struggling, but about finding that sweet spot within that state of knowing that what we desire is already ours.
That's the essence of it. It's about aligning our inner world with our desired outer reality.
Okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this fishing for our dreams concept. I'm ready to cast my net wide and see what I can reel in. What's next on our deep dive?
Let's explore chapters 23 through 26, which cover Be Ears That Hear, Clairvoyance, the 23rd Psalm, and Gethsemane.
Okay, Be Ears That Hear sounds intriguing. What's that all about?
This chapter emphasizes the importance of guarding our consciousness against negativity and limiting beliefs.
So it's about being mindful of the mental diet we're consuming, making sure we're not feeding our minds with negativity.
Exactly. Neville says, "Let these sayings sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man shall be delivered into the hands of men." He's warning us that our desires, our dreams, can be delivered into the hands of men, meaning they can be destroyed by the negative beliefs and opinions of others, or even our own limiting thoughts.
That's a powerful image. It reminds me of the importance of surrounding ourselves with positive influences and being mindful of the self-talk that's going on inside our own heads.
That's a great point. It's about choosing our influences wisely and cultivating an inner environment that supports our growth and expansion.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects. Now, what about clairvoyance? What's his take on that?
Neville describes true clairvoyance not as fortune-telling or psychic abilities, but as the ability to see through the illusions of the external world and recognize the power of consciousness.
So it's about seeing reality from a higher perspective, understanding that our inner world creates our outer world.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we're not victims of circumstance, but powerful creators with the ability to shape our reality through our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense than the traditional view of clairvoyance. What about the 23rd Psalm? I've heard that passage countless times, but I'm curious to hear Neville's interpretation.
He offers a beautiful and modern psychological interpretation of this classic psalm. For example, the line, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," is interpreted as a statement of trusting in the abundance of our consciousness.
So it's not about an external God providing for us, but about recognizing that we have everything we need within ourselves.
Exactly. And the still waters that the psalm refers to represent the peace and stillness we find when we connect to our true nature, to the I am within.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. It's about recognizing our inherent wholeness and abundance. Okay, what's the last chapter in this section?
It's Gethsemane, which Neville interprets as the garden of creation, the fertile ground of our consciousness, where desires are planted and nurtured.
So it's not about Jesus' suffering, but about the creative process itself.
Exactly. He points out that the word Gethsemane means to press out an oily substance, which symbolizes the process of pressing out our desires from the depths of our consciousness and planting them in the fertile ground of our belief.
That's an interesting connection. It's like we're extracting the essence of our desires and giving them a place to take root and grow in our consciousness.
And that brings us to the final chapter, A Formula for Victory, where Neville gives us a practical blueprint for manifesting our desires.
Okay, I'm ready to hear this formula.
All right, get ready to march, because Neville lays it all out by breaking down the story of Joshua capturing Jericho.
Ah, yes, Jericho, and those impenetrable walls. I remember the story. But how does it apply to creating a new reality?
It's all about the symbolism. The walls of Jericho represent the obstacles we perceive between ourselves and our desires, those limiting beliefs and doubts we've been talking about.
So instead of trying to break down these walls with force, we need a different strategy.
Exactly. Remember, Joshua was instructed to have his army march around the city once a day for 6 days with priests blowing trumpets.
It's not your typical battle plan. What's the significance of that?
The marching represents the mental work of dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled. It's about immersing yourself in the feeling of already having what you want, visualizing it, experiencing it with all your senses.
Okay, so it's about creating that inner reality first.
Precisely. And the trumpets represent the affirmations you use to reinforce that desired state. Those positive statements that declare your intention and belief.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together. But what about the 7th day when the walls came tumbling down? What does that symbolize?
That's where the magic of surrender comes in. What's fascinating is that Neville connects the 7 blasts of Joshua's trumpet to the concept of the Sabbath, a time of stillness and trust in the process.
So after we've done the mental and emotional work of visualizing and affirming, we need to let go and allow the universe to do its thing.
That's the key. It's about releasing the need to control and trusting that the seeds you've planted in your consciousness will blossom in their own time.
This formula for victory is so empowering. It feels like a clear path to follow, a way to actively participate in the creation of my reality.
It is. It reminds you that you're not a passive bystander. You have the power to shape your destiny by aligning your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings with your desires.
So if I'm trying to manifest a new career, let's say I would spend time each day visualizing myself in that role, feeling the satisfaction and fulfillment that comes with it, and affirming that it's already mine.
Exactly. And then you would surrender the outcome, trusting that the universe is working behind the scenes to bring it into being.
Wow, this is really resonating with me. This deep dive into Your Faith is Your Fortune has been such a transformative experience. We've covered so much ground, from the nature of consciousness to the power of belief to this practical formula for victory.
It's amazing how much wisdom and insight Neville packed into this book. It's a true guide to unlocking the power within and creating the life you desire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to recap, the core message is this: you are not a victim of circumstance. You are the master creator of your reality.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it means we have the power to change not just our own lives, but the world around us.
It's a powerful thought to consider. What would happen if we all truly believed that our every desire was a promise from the divine within, waiting to be claimed?
That's the question Neville leaves us with. It's a call to step into our power, to embrace our creative potential, and to shape a reality that reflects our highest aspirations.
Well said. This has been a truly inspiring and empowering journey through Your Faith is Your Fortune. We hope you've gained valuable insights and practical tools to manifest your dreams.
Remember, the power is within you. You have everything you need to create a life filled with joy, abundance, and fulfillment.
And if you're hungry for more deep dives on life-transforming topics like this one, make sure to subscribe to Affirmnosis. We've got a whole library of episodes waiting to spark your curiosity and ignite your potential.
Keep exploring, keep believing, and keep creating the reality of your dreams.
Until next time, take care.